Welcome back to the neighborhood, boys and girls. Our first guest of the night is Ron Edwards from KW Philly. Ron, welcome to the neighborhood.
Pleasure, thank you.
Good to see you. We do things a little bit different. We don't get too businessy here. Talk a little bit about your pre-real estate life. Like, how did you get to this point right now?
It's interesting. Real estate is not one of those things where when you're in high school, you're in college, it's like referred to as a job. There's no steady paycheck. That's probably the primary is like stability, right?
You don't do it in school like, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a real estate agent.
Nah.
Like a policeman or a doctor or a fireman. No one says, I want to be a real estate agent.
Exactly.
Unless their parents are real estate.
But that's the thing. I went to school with a bunch of people, who parents were in real estate.
Okay.
Like when you're a kid, you don't really care what your friends' parents do.
Right.
But as time went on, I realized how many people were in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I had a good friend of mine. He was a realtor, and I had no idea what that meant. Zero. I would see him showing houses and going to parties and hanging out and all that kind of stuff. But I had no idea what that career entailed. So he kind of put the bug in my ear then. And that was probably like 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay.
And I was actually working in a hotel at the time, more property management than hotel. And I'm like, okay, I can see myself like doing this in a different way. So I guess right before the pandemic, I was like kind of dissatisfied where I was in my career. So I took a leap of faith and became a realtor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, have you always been a hustler, an entrepreneur, a business person, or is this the first venture for you into that?
It's kind of interesting. When I quit my hotel job, I tried to start a business.
Okay.
And the way people were talking to me about the business, they were talking like, "Oh, good luck with your side hustle." I looked at, "What are you talking about? This is my business,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah.
And I failed miserably. I was really bad. I was bad selling, but I didn't believe in the product that I was selling either.
Sure.
But that was my first foray into being an entrepreneur, and I learned a lot about what it would take if I was ever going to pursue this kind of career lifestyle again. I would need better habits, sacrifice, like the pain, and not being caught up with the results, but falling involved in the process.
Yeah.
And I love the process.
Yeah.
I think because I'm a little bit older than maybe a lot of other realtors when they start out, that I'm not discouraged by not seeing immediate results.
Sure.
But I like the process. I like the little ins and outs of like being a realtor, like the grind, the grit. Like not like everything, but
right.
but I like enough of it that I'm not really concerned if I don't see something immediately, because I know I'm doing enough of the right things that will actually happen.
The joy is in the journey most
Correct.
of the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So far in your career, have you had like a favorite client or a favorite transaction that kind of warms your heart or you think of?
Yeah, this is one again about the process, not the results. I've been talking to this lady for like 5 or 6 months. She has the opportunity to like change her life with these 3 properties, but there's a lot of things involved. But just like seeing her go from one point where she stopped letting people take advantage of her,
Mm-hmm.
and she's gaining that confidence to like do things and making the right moves and trusting me, and being patient with her has actually been a test for myself. But I can see her doing a lot of things with these properties, and just like getting her to the point where she has decisions. It's not necessarily about like selling or buying with her. It's more about like changing her life for her.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes I don't even care if I can't sell you a house or anything like that. Sometimes when you start meeting people and getting to understand them, like you more so want to have a positive impact on their life.
Sure.
So you gotta take that into consideration too. So
if I always believe if you help enough people, if you do enough stuff, the money stuff takes care of itself.
yeah, I mean, I'm not. Obviously, you get into this to have like they say financial freedom and flexibility and lifestyle change and all that stuff. But I've never been motivated by money. I like to spend it and like to have it, but it's not something that you wave money in front of my face that I'm going to like compromise myself.
Sure. Sure.
So.
Awesome. Now, how about your regular client? Do you tend to gravitate more towards first-time home buyers or investors, or is there a certain clientele that you find yourself dealing with more?
A lot of first-time home buyers. I think education is important. My father was an educator, so I kind of feel like that's in my DNA.
Okay.
So there's a lot of conversation about, what to do and like how this is going to impact you by doing that. So that education component is important for me, and you know, obviously that draws first-time home buyers too.
Sure.
But actually, a lender that I met probably back in November told me about, you know, a shift that was coming. He didn't really get into too many details, but he's like, look for more investor buyers. So I think now I'm connecting with more investor buyers.
Sure.
It's particularly ones from New York.
Right.
Coming down. Yeah, and I'm an analytical person by nature, so my numbers make sense to me. So I'm starting to gravitate more towards dealing with investors and such. But you know, if you want to buy something, you want to sell something, you want to open a restaurant, you want to find a property that, you know, I'm game. It's all fun to me.
Yeah, investors are cool. Investors tend to be like, you know, splotchy. You get a lot of business in a little bit of time, but they don't really hang around too long.
No.
When you do the first time buyers or you do the step up home market, you'll get them once, and then you'll get their cousin, and then you'll get their best friend, and then maybe you'll get them again in 7 or 10 years. So I know for, you know, investors are good. They serve a purpose, but they're also kind of, not many people that I did investor stuff for 7 years ago are still doing that now. You know what I mean? They
Sure.
normally like spend their money in 2 years and then they hold, or they find something else, or they focus on. Now, do you do any commercial stuff? Are you ever finding like bars and storage units and laundromats and stuff like that?
It's funny you say that. I'm actually working with a friend of mine who's looking to move his restaurant.
Okay.
So that's like kind of like the only commercial deal that I've, you know, actively been involved in. So right now, we're actually in the process of finding him a location for his restaurant. Yeah. I mean, I found the perfect location for him too. So hopefully we get that sorted out.
He hasn't realized that it's the perfect location yet, or?
I have vision. That's where I come in, right?
You have the vision.
I showed him like
He hasn't seen your vision yet.
No, I mean, you have to understand developmental patterns, like how neighborhoods and areas grow.
Sure.
It's not by accident that, you know, they position these developing neighborhoods where they are, right? There's certain commonalities amongst all these places. I see that, so that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
The next part is getting him to see it.
Right.
You know, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
the
lot.
challenge.
It's the argument that I used to flip houses as well, and my partner in doing it didn't want to stage the house, and I was like, listen, you can't just have an empty house for these people to walk in, because most people don't have the vision to see it how it should be or how it's lived in, and they just walk in and they see it looks like a vacant property. And staging was always so important for them, because you don't want to force them to think about anything. You want them to see your vision rather than have their own, because most people don't have it. You know, most people don't see it the way. That's why we get paid what we get paid.
You gotta open your mind up. I mean, say if you go into a house and you look at the house and like, oh, I don't want to buy that house because I don't like the handles on the cabinets.
Right.
You can change that, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, men wouldn't say it. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I do look at handles on the cabinet sometimes.
I look at a handle on the cabinet too, but my thought process would be Home Depot has them for $1.32, so we're good. We can buy ugly handles and we'll be fine.
Exactly.
Cool. So what about, like, let's go 2 years from now. We'll go into future 2024, Ron. Where do you see yourself in 2 years, and what are some of your goals that you're going to check off on the list between now and then?
I want to be more actively involved on the development end.
Okay.
You know, we have a large responsibility when we're in the real estate business. We literally can change spaces and communities.
Sure.
You know, based on how we connect people with that home or that business. And, you know, even now, I have people coming to me trying to find places to live, you know, whether it be on the buy side or rental side. And it's really frustrating to see how expensive housing is, especially in Philadelphia.
Yeah, sure.
And I get frustrated, I'm like a little upset because, you know, people come to me with these ideas of like what they want to live in. Everyone, I feel like, is entitled to live in a comfortable, safe environment, you know? And when people come to me and tell me what they can afford versus what's available, it's like,
yeah,
what can I do?
They don't match up sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, if I have the ability to kind of like change that, I want to be able to find that pathway within real estate.
Nice.
You know?
So, in your personal expertise opinion, if I was like, tell me the one neighborhood in Philly that in 2 years is going to be much better than it is right now.
I mean, you want to like name the obvious places or like?
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, East Kensington is kind of already halfway done. You know what I mean? So like,
I would like to say Point Breeze, Grays Ferry, just because of the way the development is moving down there.
okay.
I actually wanted to do a block party down there. I was talking to like one of my clients, and she told me not to do it because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And that didn't really click with me until I realized a lot of the businesses down there are not open past like 10 o'clock.
Okay.
I hope it's Point Breeze. You know, I think there's a great ton of potential down there, especially with that Washington Avenue corridor. They're doing a lot of development down there. You know, obviously Port Richmond is like one of those places too. Northern Liberties is already
way down.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Northern Liberties, you wouldn't even go up there.
Right.
Sharswood up near like, you know, right in that pocket above Fairmount, near Brewery Town. I think you know, Strawberry Mansion. I think in 2 years it's going to be a lot better than what it is now. I have my eye on to East Germantown. I don't know.
I was gonna say East Germantown.
Yeah, I have like a thing about East Germantown. I have family from Germantown. You know, I'm starting to like really dig in my heels and learn more about that area.
Germantown's a weird area because there's like pockets. You know what I mean? There's pockets of like these big, old, beautiful houses, and some of them are dilapidated, but right next to something that was taken, you know, meticulous care of for a while. And you can see that you don't need vision because you can see what it could be. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reacquainting myself, you know, with the area, like East Germantown and like Germantown, where, you know, like off was it Green Lane and, you know, all those like. There's like $1 million homes in that area, and then you go to East Germantown in particular, you have like $95,000 homes, right? But it's positioned well. I mean, it's Mount Airy. They have a magnet high school out in that area. Obviously, there's a lot of good like prep schools and such. But I mean, it's an interesting area.
Yeah.
You know, I think it has a lot of potential.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
It's a very like, they don't want those outside forces to come in and disrupt what they have in that area. So, you know, you have to be sensitive to that. But I think it could work.
Yeah, I think it could work. I don't think it's a target for gentrification like Fishtown or anything like that. I think the people that live in Germantown now, the longtime residents, are not leaving.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like you see a lot of the people that lived in Fishtown 20 years ago went somewhere else. I don't think Germantown, or a lot of parts of Germantown, are going to have that. I think they might just, from within, reintroduce it. I don't think you'll see an exodus like we do in Fishtown. You're seeing a lot of people coming from New York, where they had $3 million houses, and now because of COVID they can work at home and they're selling their $3 million house and moving and getting a $1 million house and loving it. So I don't think it's that, but I think it's an awesome area for appreciation, especially in the rental market. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For long-term rental properties, it's not. I don't think it'll ever be, you know, bottom. You know, I think where the low end is where it's at now. I don't think it's going.
Yeah, and there's like a large chunk of the population between 55 and 75-year-olds, so they're not really going anywhere.
Right.
Unless they decide like to retire for it. I don't think people in Germany would.
Right.
Like, no. But I think it's just one of those places when you look around, like the historical value of it.
Sure.
It gets like overlooked. People want to go to Mount Airy or East Falls, but like Germantown, you know, I think you could do something.
I was at a church in Germantown one time. I won't tell a big long story, but there was this sign on the church, and there was a cemetery there, and it was like this famous Baker General, which I don't really even know what that is, but there was a person who was ransacked in the Revolutionary War and killed there, and it was like literally the tombstones were from 1775, and I'm like, man, you just don't get a lot of places where you can touch the ground that something really special and historic happened at. You know what I mean? You don't picture that there. You know, like if you're going to, you know, whatever, you know, some of the battlefields and stuff like that, but you don't think of like, oh wow, that was here, you know, and it was like on the spot. I forget what the guy's name was, but this is where he was murdered and killed by the Hessian troops, and then they came through and did this big onslaught and wound up winning this battle. But it was just like, man, that's real history.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, you know, in some museum. It's right there.
I say like I feel like I'm Indiana Jones sometimes when I go out in the field. Because it's like I'm going on an adventure, going to all different parts of the city, places that I never thought that I was going to be in, and situations that I didn't think I was going to be in. But it's like it's always exciting. And to your point, there's like a lot of history out there in all parts of the city, and I'm learning more about the city than I probably would have otherwise,
Sure.
just because I have to know that, and also I want to too.
It's good. All right, now here's your personal question. You could have an interview, half an hour with anyone, alive or dead, throughout history. Who would the person be that you'd want to sit down with and interview for half
And
an
pick
hour?
their brain. Wow, that's a tough one. I used to play this game like alive for dead. So like take two people alive and train for someone who is dead just because. Man, I would have to say, I'd like to sit down and talk with Jackie Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and my friends the other night were actually talking about we had like March Madness for the 64 greatest Americans of all time, who would be seated where, and we always kept coming back to Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson is always at least the #1 seed.
Yeah.
So it'd definitely be Jackie Robinson.
He's an amazing person.
Yeah.
I don't know how true, it was so long ago, but like the movie 42, I don't know how true to reality that was.
Sure.
But I've seen interviews and talked to other people, and just the amount of pressure and stress that was put on him and the way that he handled it so gracefully, and it was not his person to really do that. He was a hot-tempered person. He was someone who would strike back, who would defend himself, who would fight, and he just understood the moment that he was put in, and forgot about all of his personal stuff and just said, I got a duty, I have to perform. And that's amazing,
Yeah, it makes you think about how you conduct yourself on a daily basis.
Yeah.
About self-control and being aware that it's not always about you.
Yeah.
Which is I think for personally, that's something that I'm evolving. I understand it's not always about me. You have to have some level of empathy and compassion for yourself, but also what you do, how that affects everyone else.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was able to do all what he did, pretty
It's
impressive.
amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you some more.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with the next guest.